We're Greg and Leah, the host of Evolved, the #1 podcast about relationships, and not just the tender or toxic romantic ones, but all kinds of relationships with many people, places, and paths.
We aren't here because we know or understand it all, simply because we are working to evolve and asking others to join the evolution.
So join us in this next episode of Evolve!
Welcome to Evolve with
Greg!
and Leah.
Wow, you just jumped right in there, man. Jeez.
Yeah, we don't waste time here. We know we cracking for time. So today we're going to talk about our relationship with food. We haven't addressed that yet.
Where do you want to start? Like back in the day, or you want to start now and go backwards?
I think let's start in what we inherited from our parents.
Okay.
What was our food relationship passed on to us in childhood? And then let's talk about where we're at today, because I would say, at least for myself, you can speak for yourself or whatnot, but that I still struggle with some of my food issues. Do you?
I don't know even if I do.
That's a good question. So let's start unpacking this.
Okay, so like my family, I grew up, everybody ate at the same time. We ate breakfast together. I don't have much memory of eating lunch. Like summer, my mom would have lunch and you'd come in, or she would set Kool-Aid outside and you could have sandwiches and whatever. But like, there was always breakfast and dinner.
As a family together.
As a family.
Yeah. What was your table like around the table? So here's some other things that connect to food.
So,
what happened at the table?
What happened at the table is, there was like a routine I could remember. My dad pulls up in the driveway in his work van, always playing Elvis Presley, Hunka Hunka Burnin' Love.
Hunka Hunka Burnin' Love.
So,
your dad would come home with Hunka Hunka Burnin'
right,
Love.
and that would mean it was time to come home because we were going to have dinner.
Oh,
and,
like so you were in the neighborhood or somewhere nearby
when
whatever.
you saw the van pulling in, which was usually around 4:10.
And if we haven't said before, Greg came from a very Leave It to Beaver home. At least that was what it looked like to me when I first met you, and like what you've explained and how I observed your mom and how she served your dad.
Right.
I was very against that when I first met you. Like, oh my God, no woman should serve a man like that. But we've evolved a little bit. So yeah, okay.
So yeah, my dad would come. This was a routine. I'm dead serious, and you may think this is crazy, but this is how my family happened. Every single day when my dad got out of the van, my mom opened the door and was waiting at the door for him to take his. They both exchanged a kiss, and he'd hand her his lunchbox and
which she
thermos.
had packed for him that morning.
And exactly, and then she came home, and then he sat in his chair until it was time for dinner, and we would all come around the table, and we would have dinner. Dinner was placed on our plates. We were not.
So you never served yourself,
No,
ever?
I was not allowed.
So when would you say is the first time you served yourself as a human? Like that you put food on your plate? You didn't do that your whole childhood, your whole life at home? You never served yourself?
No. No. I don't remember.
my
I don't
God.
remember. I mean, I'm sure I was capable. We didn't wash dishes. I was not allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad would like us to wash dishes, but he knew that it was an exercise in futility.
Because your mom would just redo them
Because
anyways.
my mom would redo them, yes. My mom vacuumed the house probably 2 to 3 times a day, depending on at least 2 times a day.
Yeah.
And like I said, she was a housewife. It was considered
For most of the
I don't know if I said
marriage,
that, but
yeah.
she was.
So, okay, so food. We're staying on the relationship to food.
Yeah.
So
we never were without food, ever. And there was plenty of it. But there was one thing for sure. You were going to eat everything that was placed on your plate to the end. If you did not, it would be there for you. And
Really?
it would be there for you in the morning. Yes, it would.
Really?
And if you didn't like it, it was tough shit. I hated beets, but the only way that they stopped serving me beets is because they got tired of cleaning up the puke when I puked on the table. But and then I would get in
That's
trouble.
gonna be gross because it would look like blood coming out. Oh my god! So
No.
none of this so far is gonna even resemble my story.
But all this attaches to food because this was part of the food.
Yes,
Was very important. I mean, we ate. And
you guys ate a lot.
We were not allowed to talk. The kids were not allowed to talk at the table. We could not speak.
So, did you buck that system and still try to talk? Because you are very much a talker, an attention person, like
I couldn't
in the right
sit
crowds.
still, so I always was getting
true.
in trouble. And I won't tell you the kind of trouble. Just I would get in trouble
At the table.
At the table, yeah.
Because you couldn't sit still.
I couldn't sit still.
Right. So, and you were already, we talked about this in other episodes, you were already at this point diagnosed with ADHD. Your parents knew you had it, but I don't know that they necessarily understood what it meant.
I don't know.
But I do want you to share a memory that you've shared with me that maybe it happened all the time. Maybe it wasn't even just a one-time thing, but like how you would get disciplined, I guess you could say, when you grabbed condiments and things like that off the table. Do you remember sharing this with me?
Oh! So yeah. So I used ketchup was a food group. It was not a condiment, but anyway,
I like ketchup, but not that much.
Ketchup was always available in our house, and that was one thing that I could serve myself. But I mean, you could put
you could put bread, and
Yeah.
you can like pass. Did they pass stuff around at the table?
Nope. My mom would go around and put your serving on the plate.
So the food wasn't on the table like a Thanksgiving buffet looking thing. It was somewhere in the kitchen and it got put on, and then the plate
you come
was
down,
brought
you
and
sit at the table, and my mom would go around. Your plate would already the setting would already be made.
Right.
You would sit at the table, and my mom would just.
So
come around.
only condiments were on the table.
Right, and so I would grab the ketchup bottle. How would you explain this?
Since you can't see, he would
with
thumb down, so
down,
his hand like upside down,
and
almost.
I grab it so that I could shake it on my plate. But my dad never liked that, so I would get in trouble because of. I mean, there was a lot of strict things that happened in my home that were probably.
And I wonder if that is the Leave It to Beaver home life. Like, there was so many rigid, definitive, like, everyone had a role, everyone had this, like, this is where this goes, this is how you act.
I gotta say, I had a lot of things that I was going to do when I left the house.
Differently.
Yeah. And I have adopted some of the rules, but I have mostly not. But anyway.
I was gonna say, wait, I'm trying to think of any of the rules you do like your family. I mean, you're more like your mom than your dad in most ways, but...
Yeah, my dad was pretty strict. My mom was easygoing. She screamed a lot, but...
And you screamed a lot when we first got together.
Yeah, I got that from my
mom. Okay, so back to your food. You got served a portion. Was it big portions?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you weren't crying for it.
What do you mean crying for it?
You may not get... I mean, I always got... When we had chicken, I would get the back, and I liked the back. I still eat the back. That was my favorite part. I never knew until
that's not a meat piece.
I know. I never knew until I was an adult that the breast of chicken are awesome.
Most men realize that in adulthood, breasts are better than backs.
I like the back sometimes.
Okay, we're getting off topic now.
Hey, okay.
So, all right. So, and this is where I want to just jump in real quick and say, like, one of the food diet plans, I think that's the word. I don't know if we've talked about this before. Like Noom, I think it's Noom.
Right, I heard
like
that.
They're one of the ones that goes into the psychology of dieting and your food habits and food relationships. I think that they have it. I've never used it. I've never had to diet. That's not been on my family, which we'll get to in a second. But like they really go into the psychology of it. And one of the commercials I've seen, and maybe you've seen it with me, where the guy is thinking about like his food relationship growing up, and he remembers like a flashback of him being a kid, and there's one bite left on the plate, and his dad just does this look like look at the plate and look at him and nods his head like you finished that last bite, and like he's so full but he eats the last bite. So these are programming things that happen to us.
Well, I had to eat. I mean, look, my parents were all, my sister, my mom, and my dad were obese.
How obese would you say?
Extreme. I mean, my dad was pretty large, 6'3". I think his lowest was like 280. So he.
But I didn't know him at 280. When I met him,
No.
he was probably in the threes.
Probably.
And your mom was probably 280.
Yeah.
Two high twos or something. Yeah.
So I would eat as much as they did, and more. But I had so, and still do have so much energy that I burned.
Yeah, and this is where I think that
so
if you
I was skinnier than a toothpick, but they were.
But you guys all ate
my
equally
sister was
the same.
Yeah, my
like
sister.
you all had the same portions.
Would say I just look at food and I gain weight. So it was like.
Well, that's where I was going to say, like, maybe ADHD is really a blessing in your life because of the obesity that runs in your family that you would have had as well if you didn't have that energy to burn off, if you weren't constantly moving.
Yeah.
So,
now, don't get me wrong. My dad, as big as he was,
yeah, he was a very hard worker.
You could not keep. I mean, if you tried to play volleyball with him, he'd kick your ass.
Actually, I think both your parents were pretty good at sports
tennis,
and stuff. Yeah.
He'd rock. He'd. I used
racquetball.
Racquetball. We remember when we
Jesus,
first met.
like,
He'd.
I never seen a big man. A big man move so fast and fluidly.
He didn't move. He let the ball come in.
Yeah, and you were running all over the place.
It was
But
like
so
10-2.
okay, so growing up, that was your house. You always had breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh well, school would be.
Right.
I have a packed lunch. So
And dessert every night.
Dessert every night.
Every night.
And maybe double dessert because there was dessert immediately after.
This just blows my mind. Even though I know this story.
And then later there could be another ice cream dessert. And still I have that habit. I have
And that's what we're going to get to.
several desserts.
So we're going to pause on your story.
And
then because then we'll catch both of us
because
up.
grandparents have different. I mean, when I go to my grandparents on one side, there was fried chicken. Oh well, let's go to.
Was that more of like a southern, like they had more southern palates and stuff, like fried chicken and biscuits and gravy and like the fatty stuff?
My dad's grandmother, yeah, that was all.
Oh, okay.
And then my dad's mom, and then my mom's parents, they were German Irish, so there was my grandfather was Entenmann sweets, anything from New York, the what are those things that I get? The eclairs.
Eclairs, yeah.
That
still
was
a
my
favorite
that was
for
my
you.
grandfather.
That's nostalgic food for you for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
Which I want to talk on that soon. I want to hit on like nostalgic foods and what are some of ours, if we have them at all. So my childhood is very different. I did not have to leave it to Beaver. I'm trying to think of the first memory of like sitting at a table with my family. I don't think it was until after my parents were divorced, because they divorced when I was 2. So I have food scarcity issues for sure that I still struggle with today. But the earliest thing I can remember is my mom being a single mom. We lived on food stamps and charity and never had much food. So this whole idea of, we had plenty of food, we had finished our whole plate, and we had dessert and maybe 2 desserts. Like, dessert was like a luxury for us. Sweets wasn't really in the house ever. I remember being in kindergarten, so I can remember this memory that like sitting at the school lunch, kindergarten, 1st grade, and pink fluff had just come out, strawberry fluff, and Twinkies. So this was early 80s. And my mom couldn't afford, you don't get those on food stamps. You only got peanut butter, cheese, milk, and a couple other staples. And I looked at this little kid's lunch across from me and I was just so envious and like salivating at their pink fluff and Twinkies. And to me, that was wealth. Like if you had these things, you had money. And growing up, like I just feel like I was always hungry. But yet when we were hungry and we did sit to eat, it was just so little. And we were never made to finish our plate. I don't know if my mom, she probably served us when we were little, obviously. I mean, I didn't reach the stove and I didn't help with anything. So food, my grandparents had a garden. My father had a garden. So fresh food was a very big thing. Like we didn't live anywhere near fast food.
Were you eating healthy, do you think?
Oh, so much healthier in some ways. But then we also, because of government doesn't give healthy food, let's be honest. So we didn't have the top of the line food. We had the bottom shelf.
I remember
staples.
You were not any more poorer than I was. I grew up
Your
in a
parents
mobile
weren't on
home
food stamps though. Like somehow your parents afforded food.
I don't. Food was a priority.
See, and I was just gonna say, your parents, due to the obesity and their addictiveness and gluttony to food, Like, my family didn't have that. My father, my biological parents, and my biological grandparents, both. You've met all of them. I believe you've met everybody.
Yeah.
They're active. They don't sit and just like hang out and eat. They are constantly moving. So my grandfather on my father's side, my grandparents on my father's side had a garden. My father had a woodworking workshop. He worked at a Bath Iron Works, which was building battleships. They were very active people. They were in the military. My grandma was a stay-at-home mom, but she still was always in the garden, always outside. She was a part of Weight Watchers, so I don't know if she struggled with weight, but yeah, just even at my grandparents' house, it was fresh food. So we always had a meat, potatoes, and a vegetable. Maybe salads at times.
See, I don't think we were eating. Knowing what I remember, I know we ate a lot of canned.
And canned is
vegetables.
not that great.
My dad loved canned, and he had to have canned vegetables.
We only had those for Thanksgiving as
And microwaves weren't
so.
available. I remember.
Yeah, there was
I
no
remember when we
microwave in
first
our
got
houses.
our microwave, and we got a microwave, and my mom cooked. It was a big ass thing too. My mom cooked hamburgers in it.
Ew.
They
meat
were like
is not good.
They
in there.
were awful.
Ooh.
They were like rubber. We were like.
Or chicken. I mean, I've tried it all.
Yeah, it was.
We didn't have a microwave into our home, I think, until maybe my mom got remarried, and then there was a lot more children. And
I'm sorry. I just.
yeah, no, that's okay. But I'm trying to think of like, I know we obviously, when my mom was a single mom, we sat for meals because we were too young to, not to be able to make our own foods and stuff. Not a lot of food.
I remember your brother coming over and staying at our house one time and saying, "Oh my God, thank God, someone has food to eat."
Yeah, when anyone visited my mom's house, they knew like she eventually stopped cooking. When there was a big family, when we had that many people,
when we would go over there, when we
meals.
come over to visit, anytime we were going, when they moved up to Mariana, when we moved up, or when we would go up to see them
to visit,
we would always stop at the grocery store prior to coming. And
and a lot of that is also from like
and some didn't have any money.
At that point, when we were adults, my parents had much more money for sure. So yeah, I think my memory is, like I said, just having my mom serve us and not having a lot. I don't remember ever having seconds. Dessert. The only time I had dessert was when we were with my grandparents and or maybe my dad for the weekends. My grandma and my dad loved ice cream. So sometimes that would be a treat. And like in my dad's house, when we were going back and forth, because we were going back and forth for a long time from the time I was 2 years old until we moved out of the state and didn't do that anymore. But when we would go to my dad's house, we were very afraid to ask for food. Like, he was not a talker. Like, you mentioned your dad not being a talker. Like, my dad was not a talker either. And when we were visiting our dad's weekends, whatever, I don't know, we were so afraid. So we wouldn't even go, we wouldn't go in the fridge. We wouldn't, unless they were sleeping, like my dad and my stepmom, if they were sleeping, me and Dory would be like, we're so hungry. But I feel like my whole childhood I was hungry.
Were you afraid of your parents or your dad or anybody, you think? I
wouldn't say afraid, scared. It was the unknown because he never talked much as we grew.
Yeah.
And there was not a lot of conversation with my dad. So it was the unknown. I didn't know him. It was I never got to know him, really. At my mom's house, we would go into everything. We'd cook our own things as we got older. But it was always there's nothing to cook at my mom's.
Could you go in your fridge?
At home with my mother, yes. Mm-hmm. But with my father and stepmom, no. I mean, we just did not feel like we were allowed to do that. So food was just always been... And then as my mom remarried, I will say, she ended up, there was yours, mine, and ours with children, and she was a stay-at-home mom. They had one income. My stepdad was self-employed and not really making any money. And they, not just food stamps, we ended up becoming people, what is that called? Partakers of the food bank. So I've shared this with you before that we would go, I don't even know how often because I don't have the best clear memory on it, but they would take a trailer to the food bank, bring it back, and the 5 of us, I was 9 at that point, we would sort through sometimes rotten food, cans of food with no labels, mysterious food. All of us who were old enough, because I was the youngest, I was 9 at that point when she remarried, and the oldest was maybe 15, 16, I forget how old. So we had 5 of us in that age range, between those ages, and that was our job. We would dread every time this trailer came back, and we'd have to sort food. And it was just the way that I don't know, they fed us. I don't remember going to the grocery store much. I remember going to the grocery store with my grandma. She would go to Shaw's, Shop and Save, all of those. I loved being there. She would always get us Rolos. I would always get Rolos or M&Ms every time I was with grandma. Grandma had money. My grandparents had more money, both sides. But my biological father always said he never had money, but he's always had money. My mother has never had money until I was an adult and moved out of the house, and then they ended up a little better off. But horrible memories of just sorting through food. It was like I felt like a scavenger, like just trying to scavenge for my own food. And there would be rotten cans that were busted, punctured. If you touch something, it might explode. Sometimes there was even yogurt in these. So sometimes frozen food would even come on it, because of the 5 of us would be sorting.
This was before your younger sisters were born, right?
Yeah, correct. I was the youngest at 9, so there was no younger siblings yet. No, actually, I guess 2 of them were already born. Yeah, when the 5 of us would all, have to go sort the food, we called it sorting the food, we became like scavengers where whoever found something, like let's say a box of Lucky Charms would be in there. If you touched it, it was yours. You claimed it. It could go in your room, and like you got to hoard that. And so this is my idea of like food. This is
we
programming.
We couldn't have any food in our room. That wasn't
Oh,
happening.
geez. Yeah, we ate in our rooms all the time.
I was not allowed to go into the refrigerator except for water. And if I poured a glass of water, I had to replace that same amount of water to fill it and put it back in.
No,
Yeah.
we could have an empty milk jug could be sitting in there. So this is kind of both of our backgrounds and history. Let's pull this forward to today.
Okay.
What would you say you still carry from childhood as far as food, relationship, programming? He's thinking.
My relationship with food up until so it's been on and off. Like I went in my late teens and then early adulthood into watching what I ate
Like
for protein and
bodybuilding, kind of
exercising, and
weightlifting.
Let's not. I mean, I've been weightlifting and exercising most of my life just to burn off energy. I'm not I don't have any kind of great physique, but I always have watched my food or different things. Now I would go on binges, and I think the most I ever weighed was when you and I first met. I mean,
no, you were not as heavy when we first met. It was a few years into it, because I remember when we got married and you like deep fried everything.
Yeah.
I had not had that much fried food in my life as we had when we first got married. And like there was a lot of indigestion, and you had a ton of heartburn back then too.
So when I wasn't exercising, which after my second divorce until I met you, I was really in and out of the gym, not much. I wasn't
not that committed.
If I was in the gym,
and then you moved,
my diet wasn't part of the gym.
You moved back to your family. I think when you moved away from your family, maybe you didn't have as much influence to eat so aggressively.
Well, I was also single too, yeah.
And that changes on your budget and what you want to spend. But when you came back home, when I met you, your family was all right there on that same road,
right.
And everyone, just eating was what everyone did.
Well,
I would think your family was like freaking Italian or something.
Yeah.
You ate so much, everyone.
They were just southern hillbillies.
And I guess southern people, I'm from the north, you're from the south.
Like I said, that's my dad's side of the family, so when my aunt's house, as you know, was the hub of all that, and
right, and she
replaced
to make
my
meals.
grandmother, and she cooked,
and she cooked with lard.
And
that's something that I don't
was,
remember being in my life and childhood. Crisco, I think we use only for baking goods, but you guys used it for like anything.
Well, my family when you fried bacon in the morning, you poured the grease into the
on the side, and you used it again. I remember pouring out grease as a kid, but we didn't reuse it. I don't think.
My family would fry the eggs into the grease.
And you love fat even to this day. Like, would you say you love?
Well, I just had a steak this afternoon for it was a New York strip, and I as I was eating the fat, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not think I should do this.
I'm not think I should do this. You sound very primitive. I not think I should do this.
It was damn good, though. I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, when I met you and you would just chew on fat like gum, I was like,
And here you are,
cutting
cutting
away
every
things.
little bit of
So
fat.
even to this day, our son will say, like, Mom, you ate like a bird. It's ridiculous. So Joshua's probably somewhere, or our son is probably somewhere in between the two of us. He's also very lean and stuff. But I think, like, my question to you is how much of your childhood programming are you still living in today? Or have you evolved, la la la, into a more balanced, healthier ideals? He's thinking again.
So I still eat like that. I mean, well, I don't eat as much, that's for sure. I don't eat as nowhere near the fat. I don't eat like that, like the fried foods.
Right. Yeah, we
I
don't
mean,
have as much
I remember
fried
we'd
food.
go to-
like deep fried is what
We
you
would
were
go to
doing.
a Sweden house, which was like an all you can eat place, and we,
Who's we?
my family, my
Oh.
mom, dad, me,
Okay.
Samantha, and at the time, my older brother, before he left, and we would put a hurting on that place. I mean,
And all of
My
them are
brother
all
would
of them
eat
are
so much-
overweight except yourself.
Yeah,
Like
my
so
brother
when
would
you walk
actually
in,
go the
people are
bathroom
like,
and
"Oh
throw up
dear."
so you could get some more food. And
Oh,
it was like
gosh.
it was like a Duffy's kind of thing, or it was a buffet, or
Duffy's is not a buffet, but that's okay.
Oh, not no. You're thinking of the sports ball Duffy, but remember the Duffy's family? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Or what's the one?
And that's the thing. I remember when we met and we'd go to the like these all you can eat, and you would like devour, and I'd be like one plate. I
Golden
am the
Corral.
worst. I am the worst date at all you can eat. I do not like it, and I could even be vegan or vegetarian my whole life, as where you like crave meat. I rarely crave meat, and I don't know if it's just because like growing up, I mean we had meat with every meal. I don't know. I just didn't. That wasn't what made me feel nurtured and nourished. But to this day, I can say I'm working on the food scarcity thing. So some of the things, because of like I just shared, how my siblings and I would have to scavenge and like if I found it, it's mine. Like I have to battle those, as you and the boy know. Like that, if I buy something here that I really want some of and I don't want to hide it, I get very nervous or naggy, I guess are those good words. I don't know. When I'm like, okay, can you not eat it all? Like I get anxious about it. So I have a lot of
When we could easily just go to the store and buy some
It's true.
more.
Money is not an issue at this point in our lives. Neither is, locality, like location of stores to buy it. But
Right.
it's just that initial programming that it's like there's not going to be enough, and we're going to run out, and then of course that's attached to money, which we'll talk about money relationships in another episode. But that's what I still struggle with, and I have had people like think I'm anorexic or bulimic because I am tiny and petite, but. I mean, you've met all my family. Yes, some of them have put on some pounds as they've, hit midlife or had extra children and
Yeah,
stuff.
but
But for the most part,
nothing like
nothing like your family. And I remember, like, when our son was born and we had all of your family over, they broke into the brownies like while I'm making dinner, and then they like had chips, and then we ate dinner, and I remember feeling so disgusted watching this because I'm just like, oh, I think I'm gonna throw up watching people like gorge themselves on food. So I've had to battle a lot of those being married as well, that like you can very easily become addicted to a food or to gluttony or any kind of those programmed habits that let's just eat, let's have 3 desserts. And it's everyone. And let's also say your family has died from heart disease and diet related traumas.
Every one of them.
And it's that kind of scared us and woke us up. Maybe 10 or more years ago, and we kind of made some diet changes in our home life.
It's true.
But yeah, do you think you are carrying anything anymore, or you feel like
I'm sure I am. I don't live to eat anymore. I eat to live. I mean, I truly.
do you think you ever ate to live? Like your family, yes. Even still, I think they do.
I enjoy eating and the
endorphins that get released when you got food.
It's like when what really my discipline goes down the toilet at parties.
Okay.
So there's all the spread all over the place, and I start I may pick the right healthier choices, but
So
I'll
are
gorge.
you so are you eating till your stomach hurts in these situations, like where you're just like, I can't even move?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I do overeat on those occasions, like parties or when there's.
And I will say, since us making some adjustments, something that you have evolved out of where your family is possibly still in, you don't have the heartburn like you used to have when we were
No.
deep frying food and eating so much junk.
No.
And I was starting to have the different issues too, like gut issues and things like that, that we've been able to change and alter.
We bought that. We went to that one place and then I
Oh, like a greasy spoon
yeah,
restaurant,
and I
we
called
got a
everybody
deep
over. I said,
fried
okay,
hot
let's
dog.
go to Costco, buy one of those 1 pound
Hot
dogs. You cut it down the middle. You fill it with cheddar cheese.
Oh my God.
And we wrapped it in bacon.
Yes.
Stuck toothpicks in it and threw it in a deep fryer. And called my parents over, and they're like, "This is awesome!"
Oh yeah, I felt like I was dying.
Oh,
It was flavorful.
liked
I'm not
it,
gonna
though.
lie, it was flavorful, but I remember owning that deep fryer. That's the most disgusting thing to clean.
Oh
I'm so
my
glad
God,
we do
yeah.
not own a deep fryer at this
It's
point.
true,
I'm
it's true.
super happy we do not. But all right, so we're at 31 minutes or so now, or 30 plus ish. Is there anything that you want to share about your food evolution journey, your food relationship, or advice, or warnings?
Listen to your body. That's.
Oh, and that's going to be another topic we're going to talk about. Yes, but
I have learned to, and your body will tell you what.
Stop ignoring your body
Yeah.
too.
If you did something, you know, there is your body and your mind. I think they're very, very tightly knitted, and you know damn well when you go to buy something or go to do something that you shouldn't do it. You have people know they're just. I know when I'm not supposed to have that last
Right.
cookie,
Right.
and you pay the price.
Yeah.
And just something that we've been listening to or thinking about is there is suffering that everybody has an equal amount of suffering. It's your choice to choose whether you're going to
Discipline
your
is a suffering, or
or let the ways of the world just have their way with you.
so in the food concept of that like scale of suffering, you would say, the discipline would be, I'm going to tell myself no, and there's a suffering to that. Like, oh, I really want more. Or the suffering comes with the heartburn, the disease, the heart disease, the dying, the other issues
those 4
that
slices
come up.
of pizza with all that tomato sauce are going to pay the. You're going to
pay a price.
Pay the
Right.
price tomorrow.
You're going to pay the
morning.
price in one of these areas. So either in the discipline
Right.
that you've made a choice ahead of time, or in the after effects that
Right.
happen to us.
And it's in moderation. I mean, I know that I like spicy hot wings, but I don't have to have them every night.
Right.
So that's
yeah.
and that helps for sure.
Yeah. And I agree. I think sending everyone off with that message of listen to your body, stop ignoring it, really appreciate it, honor it, respect it, and trust your gut. I've also been learning how many how much brain information and emotion and stuff is actually in our gut. Our gut is called our second brain. But if we are loading it down with garbage, you're actually bogging down your own brain.
Right.
So listen to your body. We are going to talk about our relationship with our bodies and listening to our bodies on another episode, but this is kind of a good prelude to that one. Maybe that'll be our next one. But definitely, we have different people, different relationships with food. People have different relationships with food. That's what I was trying to say.
What are the people out there? We haven't even asked them. What kind of or comments can they put down for their
Relationship to food.
do they relate to either one of these categories? I didn't realize how I assumed our family was dirt poor, and obviously we were not compared to.
You guys had so much food.
I mean,
your mom still has so much food on a tight budget.
We lived in South Florida, so there was always a threat of a hurricane. So my parents were never unprepared for a hurricane.
Be prepared. Be prepared. All right. Well, until next time, thank you for being part of our evolving and our food journey, our stories and relationship to that.
Subscribe and comment.
Yes, we'd love to hear it. Until next time, everyone, be evolving, people.